Since we first started this channel, I made it very clear to people that I wanted to talk about disco at some point. And I had been avoiding actually doing it because I wanted to make it amazing. Because it's something that I think about so much, and I've done a lot of research, if you want to call it that, and I'm very, very into disco. Um, I thought that there was so many things I could say about it that I didn't really know how to kind of put it in a short video. And then I was also concerned about making it sort of accessible to people and something that people would want to contribute to. So yeah, I've not been feeling too good lately, and one of the things that I do when I'm not feeling good is I listen to disco, and it's just something that's always. I want to say this in a way that doesn't make me sound like a big cheese ball, but it really lifts my soul. Or I suppose like many people describe all forms of music and just their personal relationship with it. It's like if you're sad, then you can listen to music that will express that sadness that you feel. You can always find music that you can relate to and that can speak for you when you can't find the words. I've always loved music for that. I've been told by people a lot that I'm very articulate, but when it comes to my emotions, once I let myself open up, I can talk about them and I can explain how I'm feeling pretty well, but it's actually getting me to talk about it in the first place that I find really difficult. So a lot of the time I find myself listening to music to sort of explore how I'm feeling, or just to let myself feel it and acknowledge it to some degree. I've also in the past, when I've been in relationships with people, um, if I'm struggling to explain to the other person how I'm feeling, then I've often been known to make them a playlist and then they can listen to it, and it's supposed to be me bearing my soul to them. I suppose everyone always wonders why disco, what it is that, why I have such a connection to it. I think it's that genre of music. I think it kind of consistently underpins something that mirrors how I see myself, I suppose. Um, I just feel that I understand like the tone of it and the message through the, I don't know, just the general sort of composition of it, or the basic idea of what disco is. And to me, disco, if it was a person, and I'm basically describing myself here, is someone who is a very happy-go-lucky person and wants to always see the good in life and always wants to have fun and be positive and make other people happy and just be a positive influence and be a bright light in a room. But there's always an undertone. I always think there's a sadness. There's just a melancholy about it. I don't know if other people will get that, and I suppose some songs are going to sound happier than others, but I just think generally, like, disco is, it has something very deep about it, like emotionally. It's not as seemingly happy and it's not as cheesy as everyone thinks it is. It's not as one dimensional as everyone thinks it is. So it can be appreciated on different levels. I think you can take it at face value and you can say, oh, that's a fun tune. Let's all get ready to go out and dance and we'll put on this disco tune and it'll get us in the mood. But then when you really sit and listen to it, I don't know, it just really resonates with me. I love the strings. Whenever there's strings involved, like, they really get me. And the bass is like, arguably, I would say the bass is the most important part of disco music. But I don't know. It's just a safe place for me. And I know that no matter how shit I feel, when I put on one of my favourite disco tunes and I just get lost in it, like everything's okay. And I can just appreciate the beauty of it and the richness of how it sounds. So I guess what I'm talking about this week is um, things that make you happy when nothing else will. What's your safe place? What's the one thing that you find consistently beautiful within your life? Bye bye.
Hey Finn, I wanted to respond to your video about disco and all the things that make you happy. Um, I have honestly never heard of disco as something described as this kind of expression of joy that has this undercurrent of melancholy. That is genius. That is so funny. I'd never thought of that, and I've been listening to disco um, for a really long time. Also, when you describe disco as a person, it did sound like you were kind of describing yourself. Interesting. As far as the things that make me happy when nothing else will, um, the reason why I made a response to this video is that music has always been really important to me, both as a musician and as somebody who loves listening to music. When I think about some of the most difficult times in my life, I always remember the soundtracks that were playing during that time, on my iPod. To get through a brutal winter in Philadelphia, I listened incessantly to punk rock and, and Riot Girl music. I saw La Tigre play in downtown Philly for the first time. I listened to a lot of Patti Smith too, and a lot of PJ Harvey. But the song that I most remember about that awful, awful winter, I mean, we're talking snow that was as high as my head. I had to walk through these really suffocating, oppressive little sidewalk snow tunnels just to get to work. But one night I walked into a dive bar that was in my neighborhood. And this dive bar was known for having an amazing jukebox. And I was in the mood for some Bowie. But up until that winter, I'd only listened to kind of later Bowie, 80s Bowie, even though I knew that he was, of course, very famous for his work in the 70s, his Ziggy Stardust days. But there was a song called Heroes, and I played that song. That song is something I really needed to hear. I was really, really struggling, and I think that song is like an anthem. It's sort of this really optimistic song with a very strong underbelly of melancholy that will forever define a period where I was trying to literally dig myself out of not only a lot of snow, but out of a pretty serious depression. Other things that bring me joy, a really stunning piece of writing will bring me joy. I feel like there is way too much bad writing in the world and not enough, what would you call it, verbal alchemy. Good writing is like magic, just like a great film is magical. Good sex is something that I love. Really good sex, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with someone that you love, but oftentimes it is. It's sort of like that sex you're having when it feels transformative. It feels like the boundaries are getting blurred, and it's sort of like how the French psychoanalyst wrote about sex. That's, um, yeah, I'm not talking about the mechanical sort of wait for people to come kind of sex that unfortunately a lot of people settle for. Also, good conversation. The kind of conversation that makes you feel like you are ending up in a very different place than you started. It's like both people feel like they're contributing to this kind of new found knowledge that only the two of you have discovered. That's a great conversation. Last but not least would be helping people. Not every time. It's kind of a specific type of helping I'm talking about. I don't particularly enjoy helping when I'm giving my help reluctantly or grudgingly. Like when somebody asks me for money, that's not very enjoyable for me. Or when somebody sends me like 5 million text messages that day. That doesn't feel like the kind of help that I necessarily want to give. That feels like kind of an intrusion. But yeah, the kind of help when you're just there at the right time at the right moment for someone and you say something just by following your instincts that helps to change somebody's life. That for an old agnostic like me, that is the closest thing to God for me. Let's go out back and plant a